Well, hello and welcome to the very first night of the Love University. You are here for the opening of this community, of this space, and I am so honored to have you here. I'm so honored that you trust me with your growth, that you trust me with your healing, that you trust me with unlocking parts of yourself that maybe have lied dormant, that maybe you haven't looked at in some time, and launching you into what you are desiring for your future. I want to share with you a little bit about the format because it's going to be a little bit different than what you all who are in the Love Universe, in the Esther Effect Academy are accustomed to. Because we're welcoming our amazing men to this space, welcome, welcome, welcome. Gentlemen, I wanted to make this something where it's a little more streamlined. I understand that men, for the most part, think differently. They need something a little different. And so these videos will be short and concise. I don't want them to be longer than 10 to 15 minutes of our teaching. And then we will go into some community work. We will have a confession, and then we'll be complete. And I want to make sure that I keep it right at an hour. So it's going to be a little different, but I think the difference is going to be good. And then even when you miss, you'll be able to get these videos sent to you, and so that you can be a part of what's happening here every time we meet. So thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. I'm excited about what's going to happen tonight. I am your instructor, Anisha Sharp, and I won't be your only instructor, but I am the founder and creator of the Love University. And so we're jumping into night one, week one. Just so you understand, this month we have two meetings, and that's mostly going to be focused on the work we're doing and getting to know each other, as you got a chance to open up and just give us your intentions. You got a chance to tell us who you are, tell us, what you're desiring to get out of the community. And so the first month is just us getting acquainted with one another. And then next month will be the full month, 3 times that we're going to meet. And then the last month is the open space community. There will be some weeks on that second week that we meet that I will have a gentleman special guest, one of our coaches that will come and share. And then we have two residential couples, two residential men coaches, and we also have a residential male therapist. So this is exciting. I'm excited for the work that we're going to do in this space. When we're done, if you have questions, I definitely welcome those and want to hear from you. So we're jumping in the content for tonight, and I'm always going to open up with a question. Of course, you're going to have your journal entry that you'll be able to work through. You'll be able to discuss and work on that. And what I hope that you'll do with that is that you'll answer these questions, you'll track your progress, but you'll find like a binder. You can, hole punch it, put it in a binder, and keep it as journal entries that you can go back through and sometimes even update and see, do you still feel that way? Have you grown out of that space? And those are things that we're going to look at as the months progress. But you'll have that activity to work on in the community as well as outside the community. So let's jump right into tonight. The question I'm going to ask you, because we're looking at self-love versus self-esteem. And I talked a little bit about this on a live I had before, but I want to go deeper tonight in this conversation. One of the things that the Lord instructed me when He allowed me, I should say, commissioned me to create this community, is He said, many people want love, but not many people understand it, right? And so that is the premise of a lot of the Love University, Love You University, is that I want to really help you uncover some things that have been holding you back from the things you've desired in relationship. I want to help you look at that, examine that, and then look at ways that you can begin to choose better. But before you can begin to choose better for the love that you want outside of yourself, you have to begin to look at the love that you have inside of you. And a lot of that is going to be revealed as you uncover and look at the current relationship scope that you're currently operating in. So I want to pause our question for tonight. This will be the format. We'll have a question, you'll have a lesson, and then we'll have an affirmation, and we'll close out in prayer. So that is the four modules, the four steps that we'll flow through on each of our modules. So, what does your current relationship look like? Your current relationships. And you have in your journal entry that question. What does it look like? What are you currently attracting? What is your vibrational pull? What is your vibrational energy, right? And so you'll be able to, over this next 2 weeks, I want you to pay attention to what's coming to you. What type of energy is coming to your space? Now, I don't mean what you're attracting in terms of, what guys are in your inbox, fellas, what girls are checking you out at the gym. I simply mean what is happening inside of your relationships? What is happening inside of your relationships with your children? What is happening inside of your relationship with your parents? What is happening inside of your relationships with your coworkers? What is that energy like? How is it manifesting? And as difficult as this may sound, I want you to understand that you are a direct navigator of the relationships that are showing up. You're the thermometer, you're the temperature. And the moment that you decide to shift what you are putting out based on what's on the inside is the moment how you're relating to people will shift. And once how you're relating shift, how they relate to you will shift, right? So I'll ask you again, what does your current relationships look like? Are they ones where um, it's a relationship of healthy mutual respect, where you're able to communicate effectively and freely? Um, is it one where you feel frustration often in most of your relationships? You don't feel heard. You don't feel seen. You don't feel acknowledged. I want you to understand that in those spaces, as difficult as it might sound, not only is that your location, but that is also what you are putting out to receive back in return. And so oftentimes when I'm giving you lessons, I'm going to give you some story times because it's healthy for you to be able to see how this actually relates in action from my own vault of my life or someone that I know. Also, it helps your brain to break up all the stuff that you're learning. We can only take in so much energy, so much learning, and our brain wants a pause. And story time does that. So you have to get content from me in a story. And so here is the story I want to share with you. I took a position at a university, and it's been a great position working in marketing and working in student success, student affairs. I'm new to this area of working for higher education, higher education. That's not what I'm looking for. It's not higher learning either, but we'll just call it higher education. I guess I seem like I'm a term I'm not thinking of. Y'all will definitely get all of my personality in these videos. So chuckle, haha. Um, there's a word I'm looking for, but nonetheless, it's not coming up. But this is my first time in the university space. I've been the majority of my work life and even in my business life personally has been in the area of ministry. So there's lots of new things that I'm learning in this space. And I know it's a God ordained season for me in this particular space. And Coming in as someone who's new, um, you realize the lingo is different. And so I'm working with this lady, and she has a way of communicating that is just not my style. I'm a very want to understand communicator. I am a very I have a lot of emotional intelligence, and so that leads with my communication style. I'm sorry, yeah. I little things I think of I would like to write down because I want to go back um, and investigate some things that I know I'm going to be unpacking to you further as we continue on. So, nonetheless, I had a difficult moment with this particular lady, and she has a very disrespectful way of communicating. It's what she's been accustomed to. She's come from different toxic environments work wise as it pertains to working for university. So she comes with this level of defense. She comes with this level of needing to control. And I'm very much a creative, I'm a free spirit, in addition to, my emotional intelligence and my community side, my communication side. So we have this moment where there are some things that I needed to do to create for some marketing we were doing for an event coming up. Long story short, she had this moment where she called me in her office. I leave my office, go to her office, and it was just a very rude conversation. And the first time I noticed her style of communicating, I just kind of let it go because I don't take everything personal. Sometimes it's just a bad day. There's lots of things happening in people's world. So I tend to not take everything personal. I'm very much let it roll off my back kind of person. Well, nonetheless, this conversation progresses and is very rude. So I leave her office and I'm left with, wow, that was a very interesting conversation. Now I'm talking about me, but I'm giving you some insight on the location of my self-love and what I order and how you can shift. Because some of you may watch me, you're like, I can't shift how I am with people I work with. That's just who they are. I can't shift how things are with my children. I can't shift, but I want to encourage you that the tools I'm giving you, I'm giving you a new language, a new understanding that's going to help you shift. Because in this space of what your relationships currently look like, you can locate your value system for yourself. You can locate your love system for you, right? Not just your self esteem, but your love system. So I am in this space with her, and I go to my office and I have a moment to myself like, okay, Anisha, what are you going to do with this? Because if you let this go, this is going to be the norm of this relationship. Because I'm very much intentional about, even in my workspace, building healthy connections. I knew I had to address this. But I was very aware that based on her level of relating and how I've seen her relate with other people, she's accustomed to this very aggressive style and disrespectful way of talking. So I go back to her office and I say, such and such, do you have a moment? Of course, come in. So I said, the conversation we had, it just really didn't sit well with me. And I don't know if this is your norm of how you communicate, if you're having a bad day, but I have to tell you that in working with people, I really enjoy a level of respect for each other. I want to hear from you. I want you to hear from me. And I want us to have a level of respect and honor that we can both enjoy working together and growing what's necessary for this particular university and doing the work that we need to do, but in a very healthy way. And so she asked me to tell her what I noticed. And I knew right then that she had no clue what she was doing. She had no clue. So I began to tell her, what she did, how she responded, and that I thought it was disrespectful, and that I would never speak to her that way, that I would always be honorable to her. Can I tell you, she apologized to me. And it was such an aha moment that she even went to some of the other people that she leads and said, hey, Anisha brought this to my attention, and I apologized to her. It was an aha moment. But do you see how that moment could have been something in that relationship space that could have continued to be unhealthy and toxic. But because I'm mindful of what my current relationships are like, I'm mindful to navigate it with what I want to show up in that space. And so while I can see her sometimes being short with other people, being rude to other people, with me, she's always cognizant. She's always apologetic if she slips a little bit. She's always careful to ask me rather than try to command something of me. And she's used to doing that. But do you see how in these ways, because my value system, and in our next meeting, we're going to talk about love, our self-esteem versus, excuse me, self-esteem versus self-love. But do you see how that scenario could have set up an ongoing toxic space for her and I, where I'm now resentful. I now walk away like, oh, who does she think she is? I walk away having these conversations in my head, and now I'm sowing in a space of being unhealthy. So I ask you again, what does your current relationships look like? And are you advocating for you? Because these are direct indications of your self-love. They're direct indications of what you are allowing. And these are things you're going to have to begin to work on as you are doing this work in the Love University. As you can see, this type of scenario festers when we don't give ourselves, and we're going to talk about communication in months to come, but when we don't give ourselves a space to be heard and to allow our voice to be present in a way that's respectful, we are now creating an atmosphere of unhealthy relationships. And when we live in that space long enough and we fester in that space long enough, we have no choice but to continue to draw from that energy. Subconsciously, even, we're drawing from that. One last one. My oldest son, so I want to talk about work and I want to talk about personal. My oldest son, many of you know I was married for 17 years. And so I went through a divorce, and it was a difficult thing for my family, as divorce is. But my oldest son had a season in his life where he just was a little mouthy about everything. Now, I could go into the topic and share with you that at one point he did want me to divorce his dad. But once it happened, it was like, and it wasn't because of what he wanted. Let me clear that up. But when it happened, that it became a difficult season for him, navigating different things and understandings. And he's growing into a man. And we all know there's a such thing called growing pains, where you're literally dealing with, you know, um, life and seeing things differently. And that can be a struggle at times. And so he had this argumentative way at times with me, this very combative way with me. Now, I could have jumped in there and been like, I'm your mama, and you better respect me, and you better XYZ. But I had to be mindful that number one, he is growing into a man, and I'm his mother. And he is very much a masculine male. He's very much an alpha male. And I'm mindful of that about him when I'm communicating to him. So I had to understand that I had to begin to take down how I wanted to respond. Even in moments where I was like my own self getting emotional, my own self getting hot. But I began to relate to him not with what he was presenting me. I began to relate to him and who I knew he was becoming and what I knew he needed. I hope you're taking notes because this applies to your relationships, even dating and marital. I began to respond to him based on who I knew he was becoming and what I wanted to see out of him. So rather than me matching energy, I had to change how I would respond to him. I had to make sure I was respectful. I had to make sure I explained things. I had to make sure I wasn't coming from an overly emotional place. Because ladies, Men don't need all that emotion. This is why I'm teaching from this way, because they don't need all the stuff that we need emotionally. They don't want that. They're logical. They're strategic. We think with our hearts. They often think with their heads. Not that we don't ever think with our heads, and not that they don't ever think with their hearts. But that's our filter. Our filter is our hearts. Their filter is their heads, right? And so I had to be mindful of all these different things. So I began to not engage with him when I knew he was in this heightened emotional place, when I knew he was upset. I began to just let him have his moment, and I would just listen to him out. And I would say to him, son, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to let you have that. And I'll come back and we'll discuss at a different time. But I let him have these moments because they were necessary for him, for his growth, and to know that he was being heard, and to know that I was not rejecting his feelings. Because oftentimes when people are going through these processes, it's not even so much about what you did wrong as much as it is about them being able to be received and heard in that moment. So much is being taught in this lesson. I hope you're catching all of it. And so I retreated. I let him have his moment. And I came back later and we would have these conversations. And it became a place where he was actually able to hear me out and understand. And over time, as I began to be consistent that way, it grew him. Now he's able to communicate effectively. Now he knows he's accepted. He's not rejected. His voice is heard. And it settled him. The response I get from him now, even when he's upset, even when life is challenging, is totally different. He respects my voice. If he wants advice or wisdom or prayer, he is calling this girl on the phone because I was consistent in the relationship I wanted to have with him. I was consistent that I knew there was a space that he wasn't yet, but I knew it was possible. And so I remained that sound person for him. I want to tell you this, whoever has the most relationship awareness, education, intelligence is actually the one that has more responsibility in navigating that space. And so that's really all I want to share with you on tonight is what does your current relationship life look like? And you have your journal entries to write that down. And then the next question you'll be able to write down is how are you relating to the relationships? I'm sorry, how would you like to see your relationships going further? How would you like to see that? And so that's our lesson for tonight. I'm going to end here now, and we're going to say an affirmation, a confession. We'll have prayer, and we'll be done. I hope that this lesson tonight was beneficial to you, and that you were able to begin to really uncover some things as it pertains to the love that you have for yourself, and we'll go deeper, the love you have for others, and we're also going to look at the love you have for God. So I hope tonight was helpful for you. Thank you all for joining me.